It is officially March, less than 10 days away from the legal tampering period opening, and there are two type of trades I think the Jets should strongly consider making. And if I had to guess, I think they will be considering making as the league year is set to open. Now, the first kind of trade is basically the Moogie special, but on a broader scale, on a bigger ticket items where you are trading for a player who's on their rookie contract and you're giving away some draft capital. You're saying, hey, instead of spending probably a higher round pick to get this caliber of player in the draft, we're going to acquire them with some time remaining on their rookie contract, get to evaluate them, see if they are worthy of an extension. You keep the team young, but you're getting somewhat of a proven player, kind of like Briggs, kind of like Sweat, kind of like Brownlee, but bigger. And the second kind is you're bringing in a veteran because not every single player on your team can be 24 years old, but you'd be doing it in a way where the draft capital you're giving up is more of a finder's fee just to take on a contract because the Jets are not in a position to do the doubly expensive move of big draft capital, big contract, older player. That's the kind of move that has us with the highest amount of dead cap in the NFL this season. So not that kind of move, but can you thread the needle somewhere else? So number one, I'm looking at two young wide receivers who are in the 2024 draft class who have gotten off to some uneven starts, and it's new coaching staffs that have taken over since they've been drafted. Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona and Brian Thomas Jr. in Jacksonville. I mean, we could start with MHJ. Yeah, if you're the Cardinals and you're taking over, am I looking to get rid of him? No, I'm not. But teams that step in sometimes make decisions that we don't understand all the time that frustrate their fans. Could this be a move? Potentially. What would it cost? I mean, they'd want to at least pick 33. If I'm them, I want to at least pick 33 for Marvin Harrison Jr. Even then, you might be selling a little bit on the low side. Obviously, he was viewed maybe not a generational, but a damn good wide receiver prospect. He goes number 4 overall to the Cardinals, and it was only quarterbacks who went before him. And in his rookie year, he goes out there and he puts up over 800 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. Almost 900-yard receiving and 8 touchdowns in his rookie year. Then last year, he plays in 12 games, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he gets about 50 yards a game, which is good for like an 850-yard season pace so far in 2 seasons. He's about to turn 24 years old. Yeah, this would absolutely be a player that I'm interested in because you don't have any sort of character, work ethic, like red flags like that. It's just he wasn't as immediately amazing as some projected him to be, or like Neighbors was before he got hurt. I'd be all about Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a prototypical X wide receiver that stylistically would fit great with Garrett Wilson. I'd give up some significant stuff to go get him because what are the chances that the receiver you're taking? I mean, even the receiver you're taking at 16, it most likely will not be as good as him, right? The wide receiver you're taking at 33, I would wager is you know, a lot less likely to be as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. So he's number one. You make that call. Now, number two might be more likely is Brian Thomas Jr. because he's had there's been a ton of buzz around BTJ. How does he fit? Does the new staff like him? Is he their kind of guy? We could take a look at their nerdy splits while we're talking about him. Here's Marvin Harrison Jr. But with BTJ, they kind of had a couple receivers that made him feel like just lower in the pecking order last year. Just an off second season for Brian Thomas Jr. Obviously, his rookie year, he goes in there, lights it on fire. Nearly 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, was a borderline all-pro receiver. Then this past year, like hearing footsteps, not wanting to make some tough catches in traffic. What's going on with that? Was he upset about some other guys getting the share of the reps? So that's questions the Jets will have to answer, and we don't know. I don't know, character stuff. You can type in character stuff, Brian Thomas Jr., and something comes up. Doesn't mean it's true. Who knows? I don't know if he's a bad dude off the field. I know he's a bad dude on it. I know he's a problem on the field for defensive backs. And I'm going to assume he did not forget how to play football between 2024 and 2025. He's also a big ass dude, 6'4", 210 pounds, and just put up bonkers production with like no name quarterback play. And it wasn't just padded stats. He was making all kinds of ridiculous plays, physical after the catch. Like Brian Thomas Jr. was an absolute beast. Uh, I mean, what do they want? Do they want pick 16 and they give you some draft capital back? I don't know how high the asking price is, but for Marvin Harrison Jr. and for Brian Thomas Jr., I think the Jets should absolutely be on the phone and offer up something kind of sweet. If they're not super expensive and you're going to draft a wide receiver anyway, why wouldn't you just spend that on something a little bit more proven, right? Obviously, the downside is you're burning, half the rookie contract, which is why you could potentially get them for that draft capital. But I think the Jets are in a nice spot for moves like this. They could absorb the salary if they want to even do an in-season extension once these guys prove that they're part of Glenn and Moog's program, right? They'd be eligible for extensions, I think, this upcoming season. They got 3 years in the league after this upcoming season. These are two targets where the Jets should be in on it. BTJ, MHJ, no doubt about it. Next, my buddy Dom C has been pounding the table that I don't know if he's saying that he wants the Jets to do this necessarily, but he certainly thinks they're going to, and it does make sense from a few different angles. Minka Fitzpatrick, defensive back from the Miami Dolphins. Now, this one is different, right? This one is the Dolphins are just shedding money. They are going to cut to. I think they're just going to take one on the chin and just do like a get the books right year, like a little mini tank, right? So Minka Fitzpatrick at 29 years old and just being a good 29-year-old expensive player does not do the Dolphins much good. Now for the Jets, obviously you're giving up a very minimal draft piece and just saying, we'll take the contract off your hands is basically what you'd be saying. Because for the Jets, if you're going to sign a free agent safety, maybe you want to get Minka, who is maybe 2 years older than the guy you'd wanted, but probably better. And obviously, you always have to look at where are the ties to the staff. He has ties to, well, he was in Pittsburgh when our defensive line coach and our linebacker coach was there. He was in Miami when the when Duker was there and the Jets defensive passing game coordinator was there. So he's got ties up and down the Jets defensive coaching staff. Do the Dolphins and Jets want to do an interdivision trade? Do they care? It's not a quarterback. It's not that serious. It's a 29-year-old defensive back. And then the Jets can enter the offseason before free agency, before the draft, like, hey, we have a legitimate starting versatile defensive back. And he still was like one of the top 7 rated safeties this past season. Minka Fitzpatrick is still very, very good. We know Minka. We know what he brings to the table. He's been durable. He's been very good. He's been versatile. He's been consistent. It's just the fact that, you probably got 2 more years left of his prime, and you got to know that going into it. But they're going to make moves like this. Like, as fans, we might just think, hey, man, just draft 12 rookies, have them all make the team, have them duke it out with the Arian Smiths of the world from last year, then figure out what you're doing heading into 2027. Get all that money off the books because none of us expect them to make some sort of playoff run this year. That's my perspective as a fan. But for them, they're not going to do that. Like, they're gonna have an Alex Anzalone in there. They might have a Minka Fitzpatrick in there. They're gonna add some veterans. And at least with this one, you're not giving up the 3rd round pick like you did for Adams, the 3rd round pick like you did for Reddick. You're talking about a little late day 3 pick, and we'll take the contract off your hands kind of situation. With Minka, obviously, I think he is a local gentleman too. I think he's from either Long Island or Jersey, maybe. Next up, this is of the same vein, but this is basically the offensive version of Minka Fitzpatrick. And this would be Michael Pittman of the Colts. Because if they're going to make Alec Pierce They're going to pay Alec Pierce $30 million a year. Are they going to have two massively highly paid receivers where neither one of them is great? Like they're both awesome number twos. It seems like who can have some years where they put up number one numbers. And Michael Pittman is 28, and he's had years where he's put up number one numbers. Last year, just under 800 yards and seven touchdowns. But you go back, 800 yards, 1,200 yards, 900 yards, 1,000 yards, right? And then his 500 his rookie year. So he's good from anywhere from pretty much 750 to like 1,000 yards at this point in his career with a handful of touchdowns. He's not a field stretcher. He's not super dynamic with the ball in his hands, but the dude just gets it done. He moves the chains and he scores some touchdowns for you. It's the kind of player the Jets could use. If the Jets take, a Denzel Boston at 16 or whatever, this is the kind of player you're hoping they turn into. You're hoping they turn into Michael Pittman. Particularly if the Jets want to draft a quarterback, then this is the kind of move I could see them making. It kind of hinges on that. Because if they plan on spending a first-round pick on Ty Simpson, trigger warning, they might. Then, number one, that's one less draft pick you can spend on a receiver, like a high pick. So now, do you want to send a lower pick to go get Michael Pittman? And then furthermore, you're giving your young quarterback a proven secondary receiver option and not a rookie. So it kind of makes sense in two different ways if they're bringing in a quarterback. Same thing with the Dolphins. Like, instead of cutting Pittman, they might be forced to do, well, they'd be willing to just do a trade, maybe work out something with the money between the two teams, late round draft pick, get it done. Number 5, this is like an in-between of them all because he's still kind of young. And that's DJ Moore. This one I think would be, he is 28. He's a little bit older than I thought. I don't see Moore being a fit, but he is very good, and I do think he is very expendable for the Bears because they have Roma Dunze, who they spent the first-round pick on. They have Colston Loveland, who they spent the first-round pick on. They have Luther Burden, who they spent the day 2 pick on. They even have that slot receiver they paid like $10 million. So they need help on defense, and they're under the salary cap. So I think DJ Moore is going to be moved. Now for the Jets, he's been really, really good. Like he's had his 2023 at almost 1,400 yards. That's the season that got him paid. But I think with Moore, I don't know if he's the kind of player that if might get noisy if he doesn't love his role in the offense. Right. And that's just kind of not necessarily the player the Jets need. So to the extent that that's true about him, I would worry about that a little bit. But obviously, at this point in his career, at the very worst, he would be a very, very good wide receiver too, who's still, a couple years under 30. So he could probably play for 2-3 more years at a high level. You consider it, but I do think the receivers, like the younger guys, Marvin Harrison Jr. and BTJ are better fits. And if they're going to go to the veteran route, I would kind of like a Michael Pittman more than a DJ Moore. Michael Pittman, just more of a workman type wide receiver who's quiet is what the Jets could use. Lastly, number 6 on the defensive side of the ball, because that might be nice. I don't know if you know this, but our defense wasn't very good last year. But Rashawn Gary of the Packers, same kind of thing. Could be cut. I mean, you could view this as like cheap trade candidates or I guess cut candidates in the same vein. Rashawn Gary, 28 years old, same kind of deal where, you could be good for 2 or 3 more years. And he's a 6'5", 200, nearly 280 pound defensive end. So this is a player where it just depends on how much 3-4 or 4-3 they're going to run, or do they view him at nearly 280 pounds? Do they view him as somebody who maybe has lost a step since the days where he was getting like double-digit sacks? Do they view him as somebody who could play like the 5 tech in a 3-4 front? And then when they go 4-3, he could be a big end. So you could view him as a tweener and not a scheme fit, or you could view him as somebody who could do multiple things for you. 7 sacks and 54 pressures last year. That would have been second on the Jets only to Will McDonald. So you could use that. 8 sacks the year before, 10 sacks the year before that. He gets after the passer and he plays the run well. He's just not really the player that he once was when he got that contract, which is why I think he could be up for trade or potentially even released. And you're looking at positions, obviously, wide receiver and safety and defensive end. These are positions where it's reasonable the Jets could take one of those positions in with the top 4 of their draft picks. So if you could do that, then you could spend one of those top 4 draft picks on something else. Because I think they're going to do something like that. They're going to bring in somebody who's a little bit older and a little bit more has-been-y than we like, and we're going to get flashbacks to Joe Douglas getting burned on that over and over again. But I think that I'm looking at the draft picks they have and the salary cap they have, and I think they're going to do something like that. I just don't think they're going to say, open the league year. Let's see who wants to come here. Maybe they like, pizza or whatever. And let's hope these draft picks are good. Like with all, I think they're just going to make one move and just say, hey, before even like free agency is about to open, let's just take one of these measly picks and just go get somebody who we know can play. And now we're going to open free agency and like boom, that's done. I think they will do that. I prefer it be one of the younger receivers, but they are probably gonna be a little bit harder to get. Red Rocket, yeah, yeah. Andy Dalton potentially being traded did not get his own video. Sorry, can't. You got to draw the line somewhere, man. And sometimes those things are the own team, like the Panthers saying, "Hey, leak that." Everyone wants to trade for Andy Dalton to drum up interest, right? It worked for us. We're like, hey, maybe we could trade for Andy Dalton. Let's look up his stats. Um, yeah, Andy Dalton goes right in the Marcus Mariota bucket, man. Where you want to give them a 7th round pick for him? Okay, that's fine. You probably have to sign another quarterback too, because he's up there as old as Kirk Cousins. So he's right in the bucket with all the rest of them. No better, no worse. Obviously, his experience playing with Frank Reich. So there's that. Jordan Davis on Philly is a guy I could see traded. Okay, that's the defensive tackle, right? Well, wasn't he like a very high pick? Wasn't he their first round pick not that long ago? Why they want to trade him? So I think with him, I don't know if you trade for him and Sweat though. You know what I mean? It'd be kind of fun if you just have 2 6'6", 340 pounds. Well, Sweat's even bigger. Sweat's like 360. You probably could like he hasn't like how many pressures did he have? How much pass rush juice does this guy have? Let's see. Mm, yeah, I just think that you probably want him as like he's really like a 4-3 nose. So I don't know. You have Sweat and Harrison Phillips. Is that another skill set you want? If you want another defensive tackle, you want somebody who's probably a little more of a 3 or a 5 tech, a little bit more towards your 6'4", 310 pounds, a little bit more Peter Woodsy. But that would be hilarious if we just said, you know what? We don't know how many games we're gonna win, but you're not gonna run the ball. You have to figure out something else to do to beat us. You move your camera, we can't see your skateboard portal. Oh yeah, it moves around all the time. That's what I learned in podcasting is that really your camera doesn't matter a ton. Your whole situation doesn't really matter. It's the audio. If you have bad audio, it's people are not gonna listen to it, but, like, half of the most people listening to this I'm gonna imagine most people listening to this are not watching it. In fact, I hope. I would hope you don't stare at my face for, like, 46 minutes if you re-listen to a live stream. I hope it's on in the background. So yeah. Yeah, I thought about, like, painting this back wall. I don't even know you could see, like, the it's just yeah, this paint is in rough shape in here, man. This whole room, it's in shambles. I'm in, like, a corner of, like, the room in my house where all, like, the just crap goes. Where it's like, "Oh, what's this? We have to return this big thing or whatever. Oh, here oh, this is a gift for a wedding we're going to." Like, all this the crap goes in. So, it's like the hoarding room. It's not good. It's probably why the Jets are bad. I have to take better care of my Jets room. Gary at 3-4 end is a good fit. See? You see the vision. Oh, it's Gary who's from New Jersey. What if Mazzy Smith is on a redemption season? I honestly Mazzy Smith is I do not think he's long for the roster, man, but hey, we'll see. Like, the fact that he was inactive last year where they were basically having open tryouts to see who could play and he couldn't even get on the field, I think is pretty not great. JFM 3-4 end, if he wants to do it, I think I see every team wants JFM. Every team can use a JFM. So I think JFM is going to have a really good market. Now, would you want to come back here? I see Glenn and Moogs didn't trade him away. Moogs was on the front office that traded for him, right? So does he have a problem with like Woody Johnson? Like, was Woody Johnson behind shipping away JFM for a 6th round pick? No. So maybe he want to come back. Yeah, recording to Connor Hughes this morning, he said the Jets are still working with Brees Hall's representatives to get a long, well, as long as a running back deal can be, 2 to 3 years, a deal done. They don't want to use the tag, but obviously they will. The Colts are gonna franchise tag Daniel Jones. Why would you do that? So they're gonna rehab his Achilles throughout the year. He'll be bad, and then he'll get signed for like 5 million the year after, and he'll have a decent season. Like that's what teams got to realize. Like that post Achilles season, you got to let that be somebody else's problem. I- It's a lost year. Mills is your number one choice. Yeah, he's all right. With all the Styles hype, with this alien testing and great 2020 season, how do you balance that with his poor tackling and getting baited on fakes from 2024? We cannot just forget that year. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's why somebody like you have to weigh that. Like somebody like Caleb Downs, who has 3 years of sample size. Do you want to go off that, or do you want to go off the 1 year of sample size with just crazier athleticism? Same thing with Reese. Um, Reese is a 1 year starter, really, for the most part. So I'm sure it factors in. I'm just not too worried about it because once he became a full time linebacker, those problems went away. Like I think he missed 0 tackles the entire regular season. So I'm not really worried about Styles missing tackles. I will say if we're comparing Styles and Reese, because I know this week like Styles jumped really high and then everyone was like, he's way better than Reese. Reese is a bum. Reese was a lie. It was Styles all along. Arvo Reese and Sonny Styles in their run defense are not close. To me, they're not close. Their coverage is not close either in the favor of Styles. Like Styles as a coverage linebacker is as good as a prospect as a coverage linebacker, quite literally as you can see. I don't know what else he could. There's no Madden sliders that you could bump up that would make him like better in coverage. As a run defender, he's obviously he's not bad. He's not bad. You could see him making all kinds of plays against the run. When he's confident and he trusts his diagnostics and he fires off there and he's got good like block elusiveness. But there's a lot of times when Sonny Styles will just kind of like Hulk smash into a like a climbing guard, and it's just like okay, that's not. And then like the running back just kind of goes around him. So in space, Sonny Styles, elite tackling this year, elite because he could tackle outside of his frame. Great athlete, coverage, really good. Um, the ability to shed blocks in traffic and make plays against the run between Styles and Reese is not close. Reese is so much better at that. He's so much more powerful. And that's why you look at their average depth of tackle, it's like half for Reese. Because when he collides with climbing guards, they go backwards. Sonny Styles, the run defense is he has to have some weakness in traffic. I'm not saying it's bad. I don't think he isn't does anything that's like really bad. But I think people all of a sudden said that they could not understand at all why Reese would be seen in a higher light than Styles. Reese's run defense is better. Reese, if you want to play on the edge, he's much more powerful. He can set an immovable edge. And I think he has more potential as an edge rusher because he has so much more play strength. And he's a better off the ball. He's better as a blitzer. So Styles is better at off ball coverage than Reese. And it's much, much better. And that's a rare skill. Like how many linebackers can cover? But Reese is a better run defender. Reese is a better blitzer from off ball. And he's better at doing edge hybridy things. It's not a complete conspiracy theory as to why he's seen as being drafted higher, right? How many players have the Jets given second contracts to? They don't do that. You should never find what receivers, edge rushers, and quarterbacks to free agent contracts. Okay, you should. They're cap busters. Okay, so no receivers and no edge rushers and no quarterbacks to sign. I think they're going to do at least one of those three. Could Sherwood be good again? I mean, dude, I'm just saying it's probably not a coincidence that everybody on the defense all of a sudden couldn't play football at all. So I'm hoping a new staff will be better. Like Quincy Williams regressed, Sherwood regressed, Sauce regressed, Quinn regressed, McDonald regresses. Everybody besides Juwan Briggs gets worse. Yeah, I'm hoping the coaching could be better. Like it was, I don't know. It was so. That's why it's like, why can't we just be honest in like while things are happening? Because last year you're like, I don't know about this, the way this team is being coached. But like, are you kidding me? They have a bunch of scrubs on the team, and now it's like "Oh, well, yeah, we have new coaches, so this guy will be better." It's like, "Yeah, man, that's of course they were poorly coached. You can't evaluate the coaching staff with these players." Well, Aaron Glenn disagrees because he fired more than half of them, right? We have eyes. Like, that was so dishonest about last year. It's like, well, who knows what's really happening? Like, what is the color blue that you see or I see? Everything is nothing. Like, what? It's like, what the like, we're watching the games, man. We're watching the games. Watch the game, say what happened. I'm gonna make that the description of my channel. Let's just watch the game and say what happened. We don't gotta doesn't mean everybody has to be fired. Doesn't mean it's the end of the world. But like like being told you're not what you're seeing is not what you're seeing was kind of crazy last year. I'm seeing it. And then it's like, yeah, Wilkes is gone. We have better coaches now. It's like, well, how do we know Wilkes was a bad coach? We didn't have any. I thought we crazy times, man. Crazy times. Wow. See, when Wilkes was employed in San Francisco, they went from 20 interceptions to six, and then with the Jets, they went from 7 to 0. Yeah, coaching matters. Coaching definitely matters. Did Mazzie Smith and Sweat both play at Texas? No, Mazzie Smith played at Michigan. AD Mitchell played at Texas and Sweat. Beastbreaker or Bonesy. Dude, I don't even know any of that stuff, man. I don't know. I don't know what happens on uh the back hour of the Jake Eisman show. You guys are wild. I know we're gonna run so much hybrid that it won't matter, but Sherwood is a 3-4 linebacker. Yeah, you're correct. Sherwood is typically your 3-4 linebackers are a little bit bigger because they don't have as many like the 4 defensive linemen that are keeping the offensive linemen off of them. So yeah, typically your 3-4 linebackers are bigger, but Sherwood just has to figure his life out, like to be in any scheme. Like if he could just at least play like how he played the year before, then fine, right? He's got to figure his life out. Sadiq at 16, um, in the mix for me, I think that yeah, you could. I think Mason Taylor could play in line, and you could use Sadiq as basically he'd be a slot receiver. Like that's what most first round tight end prospects are. I was chatting it up with this guy on the Twitter, not arguing. I don't argue on Twitter anymore. It's not worth it. And like half the people are bots or trolls just trying to get you upset. So don't argue with people on social media. But I was having a conversation about Sadiq, and he was like, "Oh, he's basically a slot receiver." And I'm like, "Yeah, welcome to 2026, man." Like besides Warren, he was kind of an outlier, but still Warren. We knew he played mostly in the slot in Penn State, and he played only 38% in line in the pros. So like that he was going to be Mark Andrews. Like we kind of knew that too, but he played a little bit more in line. But Colston Loveland, Brock Bowers, Dalton Kincaid, going back what TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, um, like these guys play in the slot, right? You're drafting a first round tight end. You're drafting them to be a highly productive slot receiver who can move block well enough to punish light personnel. And that's what Kenyon Sadiq is. I don't know if he could hang in line and dig out like that 260-pound defensive end, but you can get him on the move and you can punish teams for going with light personnel. And then if they want to go heavy, he can cook your linebackers. So I like Sadiq a lot. They might view him as the next best pass catcher. There are some other receivers I like though too. I would be perfectly fine if the Jets took Omar Cooper or Casey Conception at pick 16. I like Casey Conception a lot. I think he's going to be really good. He's so explosive. He reminds me of Brandon Cooks. His quarterback play was it's one of those things where like you give excuses for prospects you like, but I'm telling you, if anyone has time, just if you, any you could pick any game, it won't matter. Just pick any game, type in like every throw, Texas A&M versus whoever, whatever shows up first, and watch the 10 minutes. The quarterback play was so horrendous with Casey Conception. I think he's gonna be a a really elite playmaker. Not an elite receiver, but like an elite playmaking kind of player. I like those 2. I like those 2 better than Boston. And I've gotten pretty deep into the receivers where I can at least speak to my opinion on them. I like a lot of guys better than Boston. I like Jeremy Bernard better than Boston. I like Brazel better than Boston. So Boston to me is a second round receiver. So I hope they don't take him at 16, but you know, who knows? Tate might fall to 16 with his 40 time. I really don't think that 40 time will affect Tate much. Number one, I don't know if he ran twice, but the one I saw, he did like, do like a mini stumble. But yeah, I thought Tate would be around 4.5 flat, low 4.5s. What did he run? 4.54, something like that. So yeah, everyone's like, I saw the Twitter responses. It's like, well, Carnell Tate is skinny and he's not a burner. It's like, yeah, did you watch him play? That's who he is, man. Carnell Tate, the optimistic comp for him, the optimistic pro comp for him would be AJ Green. Right. You're like, although he is a little shorter than I thought. I thought he was closer to 6'4". He came in listed as 6'2". But he's got long arms, he's got big ass hands. Um, but yeah, he was lighter than Casey Conception, which is kind of wild. And like the same weight as Makai Lemon. But one of the receivers could fall. Like it just takes one team at a time to prioritize something other than receiver. Oh, I wouldn't want to take Tyson at 16 just because of the injuries, but Lemon or Tate at 16 would be amazing. Or Cooper Jr. But yeah, there's going to be receivers that are worth taking at 16. Yeah, Cooper Jr. is pretty quick. Jeremy Bernard had like the best agility testing in the class, which tracks. You like Boston? Yeah, a lot of people like Boston. People could see a Pittman in Boston. We need a thumper, maybe move Allen later on. I just don't think Braylon Allen has any trade value. So you probably just see what he has this year. He's not costing you any money, right? So you just see what he has this year. I do like Isaiah Davis better than Braylon Allen as the running back too, but it's not a spot on the roster where I'm dying to upgrade at Braylon Allen. Am I crazy for thinking the staff will think highly enough of AD to not take a receiver at 16? Um, I don't I don't think they think highly enough of him to rule it out. Do I think they're desperate? Like, oh my god, we have a glaring hole. We have no wide receiver two. Like when they went into the year and it was like, hey, is Arian Smith going to be our wide receiver two or whatever? Where it's like, you didn't really care because you have Justin Fields as your quarterback, so you're not even running a real offense. But is it that level bad? No, but it's also not. It's not like we're good. It's kind of in between. Where I would put it like this: they need a starting receiver. So if they could draft a receiver at 44 who ends up being like a really good three, or him and Mitchell are kind of both twos, like they're tied for the production behind Garrett Wilson, that's fine. But they need another starting receiver because even if AD Mitchell is the two, Mechie, Arian Smith, Isaiah Williams, like those guys are not good enough to be trusted to start in 11 personnel. And then furthermore, if one of them gets injured, then the next worst one is up there. So they need another start. They need a starting receiver. It doesn't have to come at 16. But they need a starting receiver in some capacity, a trade, a veteran signing, one of those first four picks. Maybe toss a second or third our way, dude. If the Titans trade a second or third round pick for Jamie and Sherwood's contract, they're crazy. They could give us a seventh round pick. I would trade him just to get rid of the contract. To be honest, I would trade Jamie and Sherwood for free. Just take his money. So yeah, I would take a day two pick, obviously for sure. Ty Simpson will be a Jet. I don't know. I don't know. Like Oh, will McVay take him at 13? Will he be there at 16? Probably. Oh, linebacker Allen. Okay. I'm wait. Linebacker. Oh, CJ Allen. Got it. Got it. Got it. Yeah, CJ Allen is you know who actually I really like if they're running the linebackers outside of Styles is Jacob Rodriguez. I like him as the second best linebacker in the class because and it did to me he was one that I saw his testing and I was like, "Whoa, that was different than I thought." You know, you see Chris Browser run 4.38 and you're like, "Yeah, he's crazy fast." Um, but he was like because he kind of plays like a mid athlete, so it was kind of nice to see he does have athleticism, at least in shorts. But Rodriguez is a turnover machine, and I think of all the linebackers past Styles, I think he has the most well-rounded game because these some of these day two linebacker prospects, I'm like, you just can't cover. I CJ Allen's coverage film is gross. Hill Junior's is gross. Trotter's is gross. That's as far as I've gotten. So I don't know if there's somebody else who's good in coverage, but those though of those four past styles that I've seen, um, I like Rodriguez the best. I would take Rodriguez at 33. I think if Ty Simpson is there at 16, I mean, I would guess that they do draft him. So I'm not necessarily condoning it, but I think they would. Because what do they care about next year, right? What do you make of Ty Simpson's weight loss, weight gain contributing to his performance? Well, so he had gastritis and then like a messed up back, and then he was taking like pills for one that made him lose weight or whatever. Well, gastritis sucks. Gastritis, obviously, you're going to lose weight. So he was playing like under 200 pounds. I guess he's gained like 15 pounds back. I think that's just where you wish you had another year of sample size from Simpson because that's really why the experience matters. You know, typically quarterbacks who lack experience have mechanics that need to be rebuilt from the ground up. You know, they don't play under center at all. They ran a gimmicky offense. They didn't make anticipation throws. They didn't set their protections. They didn't make audibles. I'm not worried about that with Simpson. And obviously, like being, you know, he was there at Alabama in that same offense. Coach's son doesn't really matter, I guess. Coach's son. How many times we're going to hear that phrase if the Jets draft Ty Simpson? So I'm not really worried about like the cognitive aspect of being able to pick up the playbook and do that part of the quarterback job with Ty Simpson. That's not why the lack of experience matters to me. It just matters to me because you only have 15 games to go off of, and a few of them were pretty bad. So you'd like, okay, next year he's healthy, he's back at Bama. Now I'm not saying he should do this because you got to go get drafted when you can. Now, opposing defensive coordinators have a year of tape on him. Is it going to be like, oh, he picks up right where he left off at the beginning of last season, and now he's like a certified top five pick? Or is he going to be one of many quarterback stories where like he regresses, his weaknesses that he finished the season on are exacerbated because teams were doing things that kind of sped him up and got him uncomfortable. And then it's like he's a day 3 pick, and Ty Simpson is like, "Oh, wow, remember he was, well, thank God. Remember the Jets were supposed to take him?" Like, it could go either way. It could have gone either way. The same thing with Dante Moore. Like, I actually like I actually like what Ty Simpson put on film better than what Dante Moore did, but Dante Moore bigger and 20 years old. So, you'd probably take Dante Moore before Simpson, but that would be my gripe with Simpson. Jez Ross was always the same solid defensive minded ass coach that's run heavy. Solid defense, ass offense. Well, I think right now the offensive personnel is better than the defensive personnel. They just don't have a quarterback because they have 3 building blocks on their offensive line. They have a running back one, a wide receiver one, and maybe like a tight end one in Mason Taylor. Where on defense, it's actually like worse. I would say it's almost inarguably worse, the defensive personnel right now, but it's hard to because you don't have a quarterback, it's hard to like say you don't. It's like a car without an engine. Simpson's only red flag is games played. Yeah, and he's not tiny. Like I think he's the same size as Caleb Williams. You'd like it better if he was, like 6'4", 225, but he's not Bryce Young. He weighed in at 211. Like 210 was the number for me. I'm like, you got to be like 210, not 202. Like 210 was a fine weight for him. Yeah, I mean, with Reese and Styles only having 1 year doing their thing, but it's like, well, my preference is Bane. So there you go. He's got multiple years. Bane is still my guy, man. I think we are just underestimating, and I think he will go. I think Bailey and Reese will go ahead of him. I think Bane will probably go somewhere like between pick 6 and 10. Um, and Reese and Bailey will be top 5 picks. I think Reese goes to the Jets and Bailey goes to Salah, if I had to guess right now. But like when teams wanted to run the ball, they had to dedicate 2 humans to Ruben Bain whenever they wanted to run the ball. Like, do you know how much that changes the math of what's happening on your defense? As opposed to Bailey, where teams might feel like they can mitigate him with a tight end. So one guy, you're like, a tight end, he's going to destroy. An offensive tackle, we don't love it. So we're going to put an offensive tackle and a tight end to deal with Ruben Bain on the strong side. And now your defense feels like they can play in a split safety look because you're changing the math on the front with the way you defend the run. Like how Ruben Bain does that, there's no there's no perfect stat for it, but it just changes everything on your defensive life. And when if a player like Bailey, who you feel like you could mitigate with a tight end against the run, obviously Bailey will cook a tight end as a pass rusher. I can't unsee that, and that is why I would take Bain if I was the Jets. 4-3, 3-4, like Bain, he'll slide him all over your defensive line. He'd be awesome. He'd be my guy. But I don't think they're going to go that route. I think they're going to want to try and chase a little bit more of a pass rush upside, somebody more athletic. QB draft age is meaningless. QBs play until 40 no matter NFL. So, in my opinion, the a player's draft age is not about the duration of their career. It's about when did you if a player broke out at age 19 versus 23, that 19-year-old is statistically you could look and it bears it out the 19-year-old often is much better in the NFL. It kind of makes sense, right? Like if you're a high school basketball player and you're like, I don't know, if you go to college as a basketball player and you dominate as a as a freshman, or there's a player on your team who is like a fifth year senior who has got all the coaching, put up all the skills, got in the weight room, and finally turned himself into a player who could like beat 18 and 9-year olds. I'm taking the freshman. I don't care about 10 years from now. I think like you're just going to be a better player if you had a younger breakout age. So that's more about what it is. It's not necessarily about the second contract. Now with Ty Simpson, I don't know how much that matters with him because he didn't get to play. So would he have been good if he got to play? I don't know. Yeah, Derek Moore, Michigan. Yeah, I like him too. But I'll leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you want to hit the thumbs up on your way out, that'd be cool. And we will talk all soon.